So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop that questions in the Q&A section of this WebEx. You can just type in your question throughout the session, and we'll take those questions with the panelists at the end of their talk. And time will be allocated at the end of the session. So as far as agenda for today is concerned, we'll quickly get started with the introduction of ISA. Most of the attendees over here may not be completely aware of ISA and what all activities they're involved in. So we have a president of the ISA Pune section, Mr. Vikas Anvekar. So he'll be giving us all a quick intro about ISA, and then I will just quickly introduce you to today's panelists, and there will be a panel discussion mainly focusing on the digital transformation. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the panelist talk. Yeah. So I will just quickly hand it over to Vikas. Vikas.
Good morning, everyone. And on behalf of ISA Pune section, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you. I wish a very good health to all of you, and I urge that you all be home, be safe. That is the intention, that even in this era, in this situation, ISA wanted to continue its efforts towards extending all the technology updates and carrying on with all its initiatives towards the betterment of the society through automation. So basically, I say, or the International Society of Automation was formed in 1945, 28th April 1945 to be precise. So just 2 days back, we've completed 75 years of our inception. So that is quite an achievement, and globally, we are more than 3,500, I'm sorry, 350,000 plus automation community members. And the main intention of ISA is to identify industry needs, and through automation, how we can support the industry by creating standards, by educating and training, certifications, publishing the content, technology and automation content, and keep all the industry stakeholders abreast with the automation technologies. So I'm not.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we identify industry needs. What all are the industry needs? That is the skilled workforce, then upskilling of the existing workforce, making the industry aware of the best practices, and continuing with the education as well as operational excellence. These are the industry needs, and how ISA supports is by carrying out a lot of events, carrying out training sessions, conferences, and publishing standards. So ISA also, in a big way, defines standards for the industry. And we have almost more than 150 industry standards, which are being adopted by the industry very widely. So this was a quick introduction about International Society of Automation. And in Pune, we are a team of about 60 people, and we would like more and more automation professionals to be a part of this community. So thank you very much, and I hope that you will get a lot of takeaways from this webinar. And I'm really honored to have the panelists over here, distinguished panelists from the industry. I welcome them all, and thank you very much for this opportunity. And over to you, Sanket.
Yes, Vikas, thank you so much for that quick introduction about ISA. I'm sure many of you would like to hear more about ISA and would like to know more about ISA. So you can just log into the website isa.org. And as Vikas mentioned, that Pune section has been growing. So whoever are interested to join ISA's Pune section are uh, they can opt for the membership of the ISA Pune section as well. So yes, so moving to the webinar, I would like to just quickly uh, give an introduction about the speakers for today. So we have Mr. Datta Kurekar, who is a director and CTO of Force Marshall Group. Then we have Mr. Manish Pant, who is a vice president of Capgemini India. Then we have Mr. Somnath Chakrabarti, who is a senior director from Siemens PLM Software. And then we have Dr. Arvind Tilak, who is the founder and CEO of Ascent Intellimation. So just to get started, I will just quickly introduce to our first speaker, Dr. Arvind Tilak, who is the founder and CEO of Ascent Intellimation. Dr. Tilak is a former commissioned officer of Indian Army, and he has almost 35 years of experience in business consulting and international business. Currently, he has been leading Ascent Intellimation, which is a company mainly providing the industrial IoT solutions and for the manufacturing sector, and he has been responsible for the strategy, sales, and operations. So I would like to quickly hand it over to Dr. Tilak to get started with his talk on today's webinar on digital transformation. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sanket. Thank you, Sanket, and good morning to everybody. Thanks for the great response to our request to join in this interesting discussion. As we are entering the phase of opening up of the lockdown, when and how, in what form it happens, there are a lot of uncertainties around the future and the new normal, as a lot of experts are calling it. So we thought it will be a great idea to actually brainstorm over this new normal, how the manufacturing in sector as a whole can look at this, some opportunity that will crop up, and how do we prepare ourselves. So I thank all my panelists for being part of this discussion. So I'll share some thoughts that we have been collecting from our clients, from our associates, both within India and outside of India, and then we'll go around. So primarily from the overall situation globally, if you see, for good or bad, this has created a lot of hiccups for the Chinese competencies and Chinese capabilities around being the manufacturing hub of the world. So the question marks, there are a lot of, the truth will probably never come out, but there are a lot of question marks about how the business is conducted, how the government supports it, or how the government suppresses information, and whether people are safe and all that part of it. So what it's going to mean is that globally the supply chains, which we're looking at China as a very reliable and solid supplier, are going to be under question mark. This means that a lot of countries will have to shape up their own manufacturing setups, but a lot of developed countries will also look at going away from China, but not necessarily going back to their own countries, but looking at countries like India to kind of a substitute what China did. So Indian manufacturing companies, depending on their capability, their sizes, their ability to scale, and their ability to integrate very quickly with the supply chain requirements of the global companies, have a great opportunity. All of you have heard our Prime Minister when he spoke to the chief ministers the other day about opening up. One of the things of the topic was that how do we kind of a Jan and Jaha. So how that we go back to Jan, and how do we ensure livelihood of the people? And he actually spoke to the chief minister and said that this is an opportunity for you to talk to your industries, talk to your departments, and make sure that any company that which is trying to enter India is welcome. This was followed by Nitin Gadkari, our honorable minister. He also said the same thing, and he actually has put a task force headed by Joint Secretary to assist this process of entering of new companies, formation of joint ventures, and things like that. So at the highest level in Government of India, and I'm sure all the state governments will follow up with this in their own plans and in their own strategy to go forward and to kind of take advantage of the opportunities. We in the manufacturing sectors can take benefit of this softening up, this opening up, and be prepared. However, it means that what we do today may not be completely useful or may not be something that people want. So we'll have to change some of the things we were doing before and be ready for the new normal. So if you see, like, government of Japan has lined up $2 billion just to shift companies from China and to somewhere else. So if we have to take advantage of these, then we'll have to be completely different than what we are today. So my thoughts on the digital transformation in manufacturing, which we have been promoting for the last 6-7 years, there were reasons for doing that, which are more of a business reasons. A lot of people say that, okay, this is not the time for doing it. We will see what happens next and things like that. Today, it is completely different. And people are saying this is both an opportunity and a challenge, that if we don't get digitally enabled very quickly, very soon, and in all possible areas, we actually may not remain competitive. So forget about being globally competitive. We may not remain competitive even within India. So the new normal for manufacturing would be, Sanket, can you go to the next slide, please? So the new normal for the manufacturing would be, how do you use digital technologies? And this is going to be a leadership focused activity, strategic change management, technology change management, people change management, people process change management, and so on and so forth. But what essentially it will mean is that all the industry leaders in manufacturing companies will have to take that call that this is the time to go digital, not to slow down on going digital. Digitize as much as possible in the shop floor, in the supply chain, in the management, in the product development, in R&D, in customer focus and everything, and be ready to attack the opportunity that are going to be there. When we are talking to our customers and our contacts in the manufacturing industry, a lot of people did say that we want to take baby steps in starting the digital transformation process because there are a lot of knowns and unknowns. That is completely appreciable, but the baby steps and the pace of the change and adoption will have to be much faster now, because the world is not going to wait for us. The opportunity is not going to come knocking again. So this is a worldwide pandemic, but it's an opportunity for us. And this is once in a lifetime opportunity for all of us, so to say. So we'll have to fast pace our change of adoption of digital, change the adoption of, or change the pace of adoption of technologies, change the way people behave. So some of the things which our customers and our contacts shared was that they said that a lot of people have moved out from their normal places of work back to their homes and otherwise. So there's a lot of scattering of talent. So the new talent which comes back to the manufacturing companies, there's going to be a big change or a big challenge. How do we start the manufacturing process? The more complex your manufacturing process, the more challenging it's going to be, because we do not have a lot of data, a lot of statistics, a lot of processes digitally made available. We still believe a lot in people. So that's going to be a big change that will happen. So overall, our focus and our request and our kind of agenda for the future would be how to fast pace the digital transformation process and the adoption. As a solution company and as a consulting company, we look at this and we are talking to this, and I'm sure the next speakers will talk about that. What is going to be very important is that most of the things today, because of what happened, it's also raised a question mark about supply chain and transparency and verification of what is shared. So the data is going to be a very key focus of how the supply chains would be formed tomorrow. Online sharing of data from manufacturing to supply chain to logistics will become very important. A lot of people talked about data is the new oil of the new economy. In industry, in manufacturing, people were really not sure what it means. But with this change, I think that's going to be very obvious now. What it means is that the data-driven decision-making, both within your shop floor, with your customers, with your supply chains, with your vendors, will become very, very strong. And a digital platform which lets you integrate the manufacturing shop floor machines, the downtime of that or the maintenance of that to the order books would be something that you'll be looking at. And such solutions already existed in the market. They are available, and I'm sure all the manufacturing companies will take advantage of that. a lot of CIOs and CEOs that we spoke about in the manufacturing companies have different visions. Some have expressed want a lot of things to happen very fast, but they are also concerned whether their people, their workforce, their managers, their supervisors are really ready for that. So talent building and talent creation would be a big challenge that can again be helped digitally. And how some of the businesses which were never digitally enabled are changing. I was talking to a doctor in US and he says there is a almost 500% jump in the e-consultations which were not previously thought about. And with that, actually, where you took a lot of time to get a doctor's appointment in US, now that can happen very quickly. That means digital is not helping reduce the cost, but digital is getting the help and the service that you needed to you more quickly. So digital is a big dividend in sectors like this. In manufacturing, the same thing will happen. A lot of question marks, but that's where we are to kind of demystify that and share our thoughts with you. So I'll take a pause here and request Datta Kuvekar, who is the CTO and the director at the Force Marshall Group. We have been associated with Datta personally and the group as a whole for a long time. We know they are visionaries when it comes to digital, and I would really like to hear Datta's thoughts about what they're doing in the group and this thing. So Datta, can I request you to unmute yourself? Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. So Datta, the first question or the couple of questions that I have for you are that as a CTO, I think you're going to be in the driving seat of adoption of digital in manufacturing in your own group, and also a lot of other people and other colleagues that must be talking to you on a day in, day out. So your thoughts on that, and what kind of a preparation you're doing now, and what kind of a preparation other companies you think should do. So over to you, Datta.
So thanks, Arvind, for that excellent introduction. I think I'd also thank ISA for giving me this opportunity to be a member on this webinar and share our views, and also hear the views of other panelist members and also of other members who are in the audience. So I think it's an excellent opportunity. I think we could not have imagined 300 plus people coming together and working so seamlessly and listening to each other so silently. Yeah. If it was not COVID. Yeah. So I think, first of all, I would like to say that, before I come to the Forbes Marshall way of doing things and experience, that COVID has been an extremely disruptive force, to say the least. Yeah. It has changed behaviors across industry. It has changed behaviors at individual levels. It has changed behavior at firm level. It has changed behavior at the national level. So I think in that sense, it has been a disruptive force. For example, just at the beginning of March, when this entire thing dawned on India, and by March 15th, I think, when educational institutes were asked to close down and shut down and send all the students back, within 48 hours, most of the educational institutes switched to online learning. Yeah. I mean, who would have imagined that within 24 to 48 hours, many of these universities would switch to digital models and make it a powerful tool for learning and e-learning. That's one example. In our own company, maybe in a couple of days, we actually got to collaboration and meetings when we could probably never have thought that meetings would be held so seamlessly while we are struggling in the pre-COVID days to get even normal meetings run efficiently. I think we have found that behavior of punctuality, behavior of having meetings on time, and all people attending it with great seriousness is changed human behavior. So for our own company, we find that e-meetings have become a very efficient way of exchanging ideas. So some of these things have really changed the way we have operated. And if you ask me, if the question is what has catalyzed digital transformation, I mean, people would normally talk of, you mentioned about CIO, you can talk of CEO. I think there's a third factor that's come in that's called the COVID factor. Yeah, I would say that there has never been a more fertile time when digital initiatives could be run better in this period, because earlier you had people in the organization who were very reluctant to adopt digital means. They had their own reservations. They were cynical. They thought this is not meant for us. But what has changed now is it has left no option. Yeah. If you can't go out of your house, you're locked in your house. You would probably remain constrained and locked up in your house without no means of communication. And humans, being social animals, they would definitely want to connect. And therefore, all these digital platforms that are being used today is a powerful example of how human behavior has changed very quickly, yeah, to adopt. But I must also say that human behavior also has habits, yeah. So I think humans want to connect, they want to socialize, they want to be together, and therefore I think the opportunity for digital transformation, as I would put it, is maximize the digital transformation initiatives in the next 12 to 18 months. Because once the vaccine comes into play, yeah, once the vaccine comes into play, the force that will drive social interactions and the force that will then bring people back to the new normal, in a sense, yeah, in a sense, post-COVID, after the vaccine is there, it might dilute the forces. So I believe that, you know, there is an opportunity for digital transformation for companies to push through these agendas, but in a very short window of opportunity, because once you have the vaccine, people will try to go back to their normal ways of doing things. And that is the risk that I see, that, you know, before, and therefore what I meant was, you know, if you look at my slide here, never waste a crisis. The COVID is a crisis which unfortunately has been thrust upon us. It is not by design. Of course, one might argue that China had something to play with there, but I would say that it is a crisis that we all can seize with both our hands and change the way, you know, we really operate. So one of the things I said is the COVID pandemic, while it might be seen as a disruptive force, as something that is really going to affect the economy, which is real. As you all must have already heard, the Indian economic GDP growth is going to drop to levels that we have never heard before. It is going to affect economies, it is going to affect companies, and therefore I believe that it's a crisis that is going to affect the way we operate as organizations, but never waste a crisis. And therefore I believe that digital transformation is one of the ways of which we can push through in the next 12 to 18 months in an agile way and maximize the opportunity that's been given to us by this COVID pandemic. Because after the vaccine is there, I believe that the agility will be lost somewhat, although people will continue to do it, yeah, but they might become a little more, go back to the normal ways of doing things. And therefore, we believe that the next 12 to 18 months provides the window that we should seize with both our hands. So coming back to the point that I mentioned, is, you know, in terms of the disruptive force, there are of course sectors that are affected very severely, like airlines and hospitals. There are sectors that might do very well, like online food and online e-commerce, and there are sectors that might remain neutral. For Forbes Marshall, one of the things that we are being lucky is we cater to a wide sector of industries. Yeah, we cater to a wide sector of industries. It's in a sense given us the cushion to absorb the shock. We cater to food and beverage industries, we cater to dairies, we cater to pharmaceutical companies, we cater to the hospitality industry, which is affected very badly. We cater to the chemical industry, which is kind of doing well because of the, you know, the API requirements of this COVID-19 fight. So I think there are many different shapes and impacts that we see on many sectors. And for Forbes Marshall, we see this as, in a sense, a kind of a way to maximize our thrust into certain sectors which are doing well and keep ourselves, you know, insured against any dramatic fall in our revenues. But if you look at it from a point of view of the Forbes Marshall priorities, yeah, I would say, in fact, as you know, we are a major member of the CII, and they did a very recent survey of CEOs. And what they have found is that in the very short term, yeah, they expect that IT spending in organizations will tend to see either a flat or maybe about 20% drop in spend. Yeah, as you mentioned, Arvind, very rightly, that, you know, some companies might react in a different way, and some companies might react to it in a very different way. And therefore, companies that will adopt digital might have new models of working. Yeah, and companies that don't adopt digital that fast might see a decline in their revenues in the next 12 to 18 months. Beyond that, of course, it's a matter of debate how people go back to the normal behaviors. But at least in this 12 to 18 months, I believe that digital is a mandatory thing, and therefore it will continue to be a sustainable thing to do. So for us, in terms of our company's priorities, yeah, I would say that health and safety of our members would be the first priority. Yeah, I mean, I would say that keeping our members safe and completely safe while they're coming to work in a factory would be very, very important. So for us, how do we use digital as a way of tracking our safety of our members is something that will definitely be in our minds, and I'm sure it will be the minds of many organizations, because I think you already see people logging data. In fact, we at the Chakan factory and some of our other factories, we already started logging data. Yeah, that data itself will give us some comfort that our members are safe and they are not exposed to any kind of health effect that is going to be caused. So I think tracking of data about health and safety of our members will probably be one of the things that we will definitely look into as a company. The second thing, of course, and the most important thing is, of course, keeping our business intact. Yeah, protecting our business interest, looking at, because one of the things Force Marshall always had a very strong approach to the market was its approach to dealing with customers directly. Yeah, that means we never had distributor channels. We always depended on approaching the market directly, and we had a unique approach of actually visiting plants one by one and making sure that we talk to our customers directly. And that model in the last 1.5 months has seen a dilution, because in the sense, with nobody being able to travel, meeting customers has been virtually impossible. And therefore, one of the ways we are looking at, and one of the things that one of the things that we did very well in the last 1.5 months, and I am amazed personally at the way we reacted to it so agilely, is that we have been having our digital sales calls being done with customers very widely across many of our business units. So I think protecting our sales model, or a business model, is becoming a priority for us, because it is a model that makes us unique. And definitely we would not like that model to be affected. So therefore, we are finding out ways and means of how digital can help us develop business models that can take us into, our customer plants without really being physically there. Now, and therefore, there are many such discussions that are really ongoing now, where we are looking at how our products can talk to us, how our systems can talk to us, how customers can talk to our product and systems, and how customers can talk to our sales engineers, virtually, in a sense. So I think we are looking at, as a priority, of looking at how our sales channels can be protected from our approach that has been the most useful strength of our organization. And that really is the first thing. So one is protecting our sales model, and the second thing is protecting our manufacturing model. Because one of the things that's happened today is factories have shut down. And then there is no way our manufacturing members are able to operate at the factories. So the second most important priority for us is to get our manufacturing systems back in place. Now, although the physicality of being in a workplace, physicality of being in a factory cannot be underestimated, it's important. There will be a renewed thrust, as we see, we're already having teams working on automating many of our work cells. They are trying to put together modular systems that can then be operated, I would not say in an industry 4 way, but maybe in a way that provides us with low-cost automation that can provide us with improvements in productivity. That is what we believe is the second way of operating as a priority, is getting our manufacturing systems to work in a way that can be operated very effectively, even in a different situation. It may not be a pandemic, but something else that might disrupt us. So keeping our business continuity running, both in sales and in manufacturing, is of course an important requirement. And that then leads us to the third model, which is we also want to keep our innovation engine running, because to us that has been a prime pillar of how we have been competitive in our businesses. So keeping our innovation engine running in a way, especially in these times when customers would like to connect to the products, would like to have more data coming from the products, our focus from innovation would be to make our products smarter, to be sure that our products connect to the cloud much more easier than what they've been doing in the past. And there would be a renewed thrust in actually connecting our products to systems that we would probably not have done at that speed earlier. So I think that business models, manufacturing models, and innovation models would see a renewed thrust in our own organization. And we would definitely want to adapt to this as fast as we can. But the fourth disruptive force that is there is, in these times, what we see is the need to conserve cash. Now, while I have said many things like this, that we'll do many things, there's also a opposing force of conserving cash. And that means that we have to look at each of our investments very carefully. So I think the as I mentioned that, you know, if you look at, let's say, what happened to mobiles, there was widespread adoption of mobiles across population because mobiles became affordable and it became a commonplace technology for people to use. And I think similarly, the whole digital transformation revolution will get mass adoption provided there are fertile forces that make it affordable for organizations to implement it large scale. Otherwise, it will remain the preview of a few organizations which will do it. They can afford it, they will do it. But I think largely, just like what happened in mobiles, affordability of digital transformation tools and solutions will then provide a fertile force to expand it across the Indian industry. Because if it remains rather, you know, expensive or the paybacks are very, very low, then digital transformation will not benefit from the current situation that is there. So I think there will be a need for technology suppliers, consultants, and anybody else to kind of make sure that the packages that they offer for digital solutions should become so attractive that, you know, despite the need to conserve cash, companies will see this as a force to do and to amplify and leverage their businesses. Otherwise, you know, I believe that while it will happen, people will talk about it, its implementation might not get mass adoption that we would like to see. But the forces exist now to see that it can be done with great speed. Yes, I believe so. I think there cannot be a more fertile moment than now to see these happening. So I believe that the need to conserve cash is going to be a factor that we have to put into place while considering investments that we do in digital or any other thing that we do, any capex that we do, we'll have to look at it. So I think making it affordable and good to do is an essential aspect of implementation. And obviously, you know, we would like to accelerate many of our own systems in agility. We would like to make sure that the supply chain works very efficiently. So I think connecting digitally across supply chains, right from our research and development teams down to our vendors, would be a very useful thing to do, given what we already have invested in our IT system. So I think playing upon our current IT systems, how can we have modules that can be placed on top of this that can connect our supply chain systems very effectively would be another priority that we look at. So I think I would say that between health, business continuity, and of course conserving cash and innovation, we would probably have many of these ideas going around in the coming few quarters, I would say. Yeah. And as I mentioned, never waste a crisis. So again, repeat that the COVID is a crisis that can be leveraged to good effect. It can be put to good use. While we are all anxious about health and safety, it also presents to us opportunities that we would never have believed before would have happened there. So efficiency, punctuality, human behavior, all that is changing for the good. And I think we would like to leverage all these opportunities resulting from this COVID crisis in a manner that will give us safety, business continuity, and sustainability of our operations as we get into the next 2 or 3 quarters. And I'm sure that the digital transformation opportunity in the post-COVID era, as I mentioned, I can only define it as, when I say post-COVID, I would say pre-vaccine and post-vaccine. Yeah, because the pre-vaccine is to me the maximum window for opportunity for pushing through any of these opportunities. Post-vaccine, I see that people might tend to go back to the normal routines and tend to be a little more complacent in adoption. So I would say that as a guide, companies should really push through these digital agendas like never before. And instead of having a CTO or a CIO, I would say having a COVID officer who will implement digital is, I think, a good thing to do. So I would kind of say that we would like to implement technology to augment our efficiencies, our productivity, and to augment our people's strengths. Obviously, people have a view that digital can replace people, but to Forbes, our view has been use technology to augment people's strengths and to enable them to collaborate better and use it as a tool and not get obsessed with the tool. Yeah. So to us, we will use many technology, whether it's AI, whether it is ML, whether it is sensor technology, whether it is cloud platform, whether it is edge devices, name it. I mean, all of them are available today. So I think there's no dearth of technology. Yeah, all the collaboration platforms are available. So I think it's a matter of how we mix and match and make it affordable and relevant to our business models, and make sure that we augment eventually our people, our business models, and our manufacturing models. So I think I would kind of leave it there. Then we can Sorry, no more questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks, Datta, for those insightful discussion. So essentially, taking from what I said and what piling up on Datta, what he said, I take 3 points from that, and that would be a good point where I can request Somnath to jump in. One is that a product related innovation. So you see a lot of companies like General Motors shifted from making cars to making testing kits or things like that. So innovation and product development, digital driven, that's one very important part. Affordability of solution is a very important part. That has been a very major discussion. And I think now with this pressure now, we have better opportunity to do that as solution providers. So I would request Somnath to take up your discussions, and as a technology company, as a manufacturing company, as a global company, please share your thoughts about how are you going to assist the manufacturing companies in this transition, and what do you see being done internally, both in India and outside of India? So over to you, Somnath.
Thank you, Arvind. Thanks a lot. Sanket, would you mind giving me the sharing rights?
Yeah, sure.
So first of all, thank you, ISA, for giving this opportunity or arranging this this session. This is amazing. It's great to see that more than 130 people are participants in this session. I hope you can see my screen, right?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. And a very good morning to all of you. Having said that, I would have loved to have this conversation sitting in a room, right, in a large, maybe in a room, in a conference room, where we could see each other's facial expressions. In my mind, I have always loved to have that kind of an interaction where we take warmth from each other and we can learn from each other in a more close proximity. And India, that has been the norm since ages, even though West has started adopting physical distancing, remote working. Everything seems to be remote, and they have started experiencing that or practicing that since a little earlier compared to what we have seen in India. But the time has changed. Whatever, COVID-19 is one of the catalysts. Maybe this was inevitable, but this is getting accelerated through this particular crisis. But now, whatever Datta talked about, every crisis brings in opportunity, and it is up to us. How do we convert a crisis situation into an opportunity for our advantage? So what I will be talking about is mainly the digitalization journey, because Arvind asked me a couple of questions. One, how exactly the innovation companies, right, the technology companies like ours, so we are in technology innovation as well as smart manufacturing, spread across almost all different domains, all across the business segment. Be it medical, be it CT, smart infrastructures, smart manufacturing, pretty much all the spectrums are covered. So how exactly we are coping up with this kind of situation, and how our digital solutions actually help companies to get to the next level. And the second is the affordability part, right? So I will also talk a little bit about that aspect, because technology innovation and evolution always makes things easier and easier from usage perspective, and also from the cost perspective. And we always talk about one thing, which is called land and expand, right? So my suggestion will be, for the technology solutions, whatever you are adopting, the technology solution should be tried out first at a smaller scale. If you see that the value is getting unfolded, then only decide to go to the next level, because this is not really the cost which is driving this whole digitalization journey anymore. This is going to be a lot more driven by value, and what is the effectiveness that it brings in the complex environment that we are in today, or we are forced into today. So I will also talk a little bit about the smart manufacturing market and its impact. And I will specifically point out a couple of topics which are going to help us. That's what my personal feeling is. One is industrial IoT and the digital twin-based evolution for the digital transformation of an organization. So Datta talked about this very briefly. So I was looking at this image, floating around in Twitter and LinkedIn, that who led the digital transformation of your company? Is this the CEO, the CTO, or COVID-19? And I think it's a little funny, but looks like it's true, because we have been talking about digitalization for the last, I don't know, linked with Industry 4.0 for more than 15 years now. But I think the amount of push and boost that we have actually seen in the recent past is unprecedented. Think about it. In India, even though there are technology companies who have adopted work from home methodology, right? But I don't think we ever thought that the whole organization with thousands of people will be working from home and remain as effective as they used to be as in the office. There were some teething problems during the first week or so, but I think we have overcome them, and that's unprecedented. So sometimes we don't even know what kind of abilities that we have within ourselves unless we are almost pushed and forced into that kind of situation to unfold some of those capabilities. So necessity is the mother of all inventions, as we all know. So we have talked about, we know digital transformation and how digital transformation has evolved over a period of time and what are the different factors to it. There are different ways of doing it, but I want to highlight a couple of things. One, from product focus, it directly takes us to the customer focus, right? And this is going to be a lot more relevant in today's world, where Datta talked about that, holding cash or on spending, giving a little closer look, the kind of spending that we are doing will be a little more relevant, at least during the next 12 to 18 months. So this customer focus is going to be extremely crucial, and focusing on value. Obviously, change management, transformational stuff, data security, right? When we are using cloud, there are certain apprehensions in the market about putting data into cloud because of different news that we look into. As a collaboration platform, Zoom took a huge leap during this pandemic situation. But then suddenly, when we hear that almost huge amount of personal data has been leaked to the dark web, suddenly, we take 5 or 6 steps back, because we are talking about our intellectual property and putting it on the cloud. So data security and privacy are two very crucial topic that we need to be focusing on, and as Siemens, that's what we are dedicated to. And I can also talk about one more thing. We are talking about remote today. For the last 15 years, we have a technology product. We have never sold it as a commercial product in the market, but used for our internal usage across different group companies. It's called a remote service solution. The remote service solution actually avoids a service engineer to physically go to a customer's installation, rather can take care of maintenance of an equipment, be it a scanner or an MRI machine which is installed in a hospital, or maybe a turbine or an engine which is installed in remote locations, can do remote processing and remote maintenance of those machines sitting in one place in a particular data center. I think that's going to be the new norm, when physical distancing seems to be it's not going to go away. Even if when the industries are going to start, I'm sure that this would start with like maybe 40-50% of work strength with a certain amount of distancing maintained. So we need to learn how to operate those machines a lot more remotely, use digital twins, and ensure that those digital twins can predict how exactly the shop floor is going to operate and perform, and monitor through the physical twins. So the whole movement from virtual world to the physical world is going to get closer and closer. And Siemens has started this journey way back in 2007. And I'm sure that this current situation will bring in those opportunities to accelerate those processes. So I was looking at a research, manufacturing market, how exactly the smart manufacturing market is going to get impacted. I think we know that COVID is going to impact lot of markets, lot of businesses. But one good thing about smart manufacturing market is people will be looking at smart manufacturing a lot more closely to overcome some of the difficulties that the post-COVID era will bring in. Even though the expansion of the market, the way it was projected, that may not be as exciting the way it was projected earlier, but still this market is going to grow almost at a rate of 4 to 5%, which is not bad in this current scenario, when most of the other industries are actually going to see a little bit of downslide. And what will enable people to actually adopt technology. I can highlight some of the things like condition monitoring, artificial intelligence, industrial IoT, digital twin, industrial 3D printing, and usage of some of our traditional softwares, which are the warehouse management systems, the manufacturing execution systems, because many of you already using manufacturing execution systems to predict and monitor what is really going on during the shop floor manufacturing process. There are process automation manager, the human machine interfaces. The human machine interfaces are being used pretty effectively even today as part of the shop floor. So let's move ahead and look at what are the different mandates that come from Industry 4.0. The Industry 4.0 mainly talks about how can you produce more with less cost, right? With less waste, and that's exactly what we are looking for, right? Like Datta said, not many people, not companies will be as lenient as their spending, because they'll be holding on to their cash, because you don't know what is going to be the situation tomorrow. So adopting smart manufacturing is, I think, the smartest topic as of today. The other thing is the digital twin. So digital twins are nothing but the logical representation or the digital representations of the physical product. So when the product lifecycle is going through design, planning, manufacturing, and the physical products, when the product is going through different phases, I think today we have products and solutions that can convert each of these phases and convert them into digital representations. And we can pretty much create a nice feedback loop that can keep feeding information from the physical world to the virtual world, keeping the design optimizations going in a continuous basis. So the industrial IoT solution, as I talked about, this was one of the missing pieces, because if you look at the virtual world, the other twins were already existing in the market. I'm talking about the design digital twin, or even the planning digital twin, or the manufacturing digital twin through our manufacturing execution solutions. But the physical twin was more or less missing, and that's what industrial IoT solves that problem, where you can physically look at a machine or a product which is operating in its real operating condition, and feeding data back to the designer's desk. Because generally we have seen that there is a certain amount of differences, efficiency differences, that always happens between what we see as part of our laboratory testing vis-a-vis what we see when the product goes out in the market in the real situation. So this is how the whole digital twin process works. So we have the product digital twin, we have the production digital twin, and the performance digital twin, which is nothing but the real product. And there is a continuous chain that works, and Siemens has technologies where the product twin is generally managed by our NX suite of products, which is the CAD/CAM solutions. We have our virtual production that is pretty much taken care of by our manufacturing execution systems, smart manufacturing and stuff like that. And then the performance twin is taken care of by our MindSphere product. Okay, so as I said, the bridging between the virtual world and the real world is pretty much coming as close as possible. So on the shop floor, plan, simulate, predict, and optimize production digitally, and we have products which can actually take care of that, which can generate the CNC codes automatically and activate the feedback loop. So let me just in the interest of time, I'm just moving a little quickly. So this is an example of an autonomous vehicle which is running on the field. So we observe that the vehicle is actually showing an increased brake temperature. So what we do, we take out the whole brake component, the brake assembly. We do a finite element analysis of the brake component, file a specific problem request, and the request goes to the design engineer's desk. He does an analysis and sees that the temperature should not have crossed where it is actually showing from the feedback loop of the physical product. So we take that as an input, we do the analysis, we see that the system needs to be changed. So we go back all the way to the system design and find out which system is actually getting impacted because of that, and we initiate a change process. So this closed loop in a digital environment is possible today with the kind of technologies that we have with us. This is another example of a plant simulation software where the plant simulator is connected to the physical world, where any kind of incidents can be measured and monitored with the data that is being stored as part of the system. So I will leave the thought at that point of time. As I said, we need to look at using technology, accelerating technology adoption to get over the crisis, because looks like this is going to be the new normal going forward. And to answer the other question about affordability, I think land and expand is going to be the way to move forward. And with that thought, I will just conclude. Over to you, Arvind.
Yeah. So thanks, Somnath, for that interesting discussion and interesting videos. So a lot is being done, lot is possible, lot is being tried. Costs would be challenges, but when we discuss the return on investment, it is the return that would justify the investment, not the cost per se. And if you have a payback period of 18 months or something, then I think everybody is going to say that that's affordable. So with this, I would like to request now Manish to join the discussion. Manish, you are leading the consulting part and the solution part in Capgemini. You are talking to a lot of customers, both in India, outside, your internal consulting teams. And I'm sure based on what I said, Datta said, and Somnath said, you have a lot of thoughts, probably kind of a validation of what you're hearing. So over to you for your thoughts. And then we'll open for question and answers. So guys in the audience, please start sending your questions to Sanket so that he can start piling up the questions and start directing it. So over to you, Manish.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tilak. Thanks a lot. And good morning to everybody. It's really heartwarming to see so many people. And as my, I would say, panel colleagues said that, yes, COVID has really helped in one way. We are able to find so much time to go through and hear from each other what we feel, how COVID has impacted, and what are the opportunities, as Datta said. We should not have a pessimistic view, but we should see optimism in any situation that is gifted to us, I would say. And also, I think Somnath really talked a lot about some of the topics that, as Dr. Tilak, you said, we are also seeing when we are dealing with not only companies in India, but also outside. But before I start, I would like to really thank ISA for inviting me. And I would like to thank all the people who are willing to listen to what I have to say. So really thanks to both the ISA and the people who are on the call. So maybe Sanket, I can request you to go to the next slide, please. Yes, so a little bit of a background. See, I also personally come from the manufacturing industry, and I know the challenges which it has and how complex the industry is. And I think it is dealing with multiple, I would say, verticals, as we call in Capgemini, whether it is automotive, industrial, FMCG, or aerospace. So the complexity of the manufacturing, and hence the sometimes I say the agility kind of is really the a need of the hour, which gets, in my opinion, really exponential with the COVID situation. And I'll be talking more about that. The need of agility is really very important for all our companies in the manufacturing sector. And also already we have the challenge of multiple variants, whether it is a car or whether it is a FMCG product or industrial product, the variants are humongous. And the models also keep changing, and we have to deal with a wide variety of commodities. And the supply chain, of course, is one of the most complex as far as some of these industries that manufacturing industry deals with. The reason I'm sharing this background is that we are already in a very, very complex kind of an industry, and the COVID impact definitely comes up with a lot of opportunities, but definitely puts some kind of a challenge in front of the manufacturing industry, which is in terms of supply chain. So I think some of my colleagues also, panel colleagues also talked about that the supply chain, and Dr. Tilak, to your point, whenever we are talking to all our customers, whether in India or outside, everybody is really concerned, deeply concerned about the broken supply chain. Whether it is China or even India or Poland or wherever, or Mexico, wherever the OEMs were getting their parts from, the supply chain is currently broken. So something has to be done, and I'll be talking about that in my next slides, what we are trying to do and what probably the companies that are represented by the participants could also do. The inventory norms would really undergo a change in our opinion. The way people were running after JIT just in time, probably there will be some change around those norms. Like we were internally debating the new norms like JIC, we were calling just in case. So people would like to probably have a different level of inventory norms. There will be productivity challenges like under the COVID, as some of my panelists also spoke about. Social distancing will be there till the time probably the vaccine doesn't come. So the social distancing norms will require less number of people to be available in the production shops, which will directly impact the productivity. Some of the customers we are talking to, suppose the cycle times of a product was say 10 minutes, it's immediately going to 20 minutes and upwards. So there will be loss of productivity. And of course, social distancing will be paramount in production and also in the workplace. And with the kind of, I would say, cash crunch, and my colleagues also talked about it, the pressure on the cost reduction will be far more than what it was probably today, because everybody would like to not only save cash, but also to have higher margins so that they could replenish the losses that have already happened to the companies or are likely to happen in future due to sheer lack of loss of revenue. So these are some of the, I would say, in my opinion, how COVID is going to impact. Of course, everything has an opportunity. And I think the way Somnath was talking about that what did not happen in last 15 years. And I know Siemens we work very closely with, and also with our consulting team, what we have been trying to advocate for last many years. Probably COVID has kind of, I would say, pushed OEMs and other manufacturing companies to go after themes like digital continuity. We have been talking about digital continuity, which is seamless integration across the product value chain, right from design, right to manufacturing, supply chain, sales, and after sales. Much tighter integration, I think Somnath also talked about, of the PLM to the enterprise IT, MES, and the IoT. So often we have seen that the PLM is siloed, and the IT systems, enterprise IT systems, which on supply chain or the procurement, are significantly different than the PDM systems. MES is different, and IoT is again a different system. So I think the evolution of what we call as the intelligent platforms, which would link the PLM, PDM, which is basically design and project management, and the enterprise IT, which runs supply chain, and the MES, which IoT systems will start to see. And that's a great opportunity for, I think, all of us. As again, I'm quoting Somnath, that what didn't happen last 15 years, probably we are seeing traction around this in last 2 months. The other thing which is going to happen is around agile. So again, this is a topic which was being talked about for last many years. But yes, now there'll be a real need for the manufacturing to become much more agile than what it was today. And this will definitely lead to higher adoption of lean and the IoT, which many companies were saying, should they adopt, should they not adopt? I think the IoT will play a very important part in making the manufacturing more agile, because the variation in the demand of products and their variance will be significant. So the companies who adopt to these agile manufacturing concepts will be able to serve their customers which are changing their demands very frequently, as compared to the ones who still are dependent on, say, special purpose machines. So more and more flexible manufacturing systems and machines will, as we see, will be adopted to have the agile manufacturing. And I think both Datta and Somnath did cover remote monitoring and control of plants. So because of the social distancing, I think the faster adoption of IoT and AI/ML will be there to ensure that can a large part of the plants be remotely controlled, and also a lot of prediction in terms of production output, in terms of quality, leveraging AI/ML will see to happen, and that's a great opportunity. I'm sure Dr. Tilak will also agree. Like, we have been closely working with him on deploying IoT, AI/ML, but yeah, the traction wasn't as much as what we would like it to be. We foresee that because of this COVID situation, the adoption of IoT and AI/ML for much more automation of the plants will happen, and remote service surveillance will also start to kick in with leverage of, I would say, concepts like image analytics. People would like to sit at their homes and see if everything is fine in their plants, and whether the social distancing norms, in fact, are being followed or not. So that's the next point that I have in terms of higher safety in plants. So higher leverage of IoT, we are working on some platforms and solutions which leverage IoT for ensuring social distancing, minimum number of people in plant, and how AR/VR could be used to really on a I would say real-time basis monitor the safety of the workmen who are working in the plants. And I think Somnath also captured touchless HMIs. So HMIs are there, but we foresee that because of this COVID situation, more and more touchless HMIs will be adopted, both in the product as well as in the plants which produce these products. And we see, I already talked about the supply chain. So supply chain digitization again has been a topic for quite some time, and we did not see I would say the enthusiasm to invest in digitizing the supply chain. But I think with the supply chain needing to be almost redesigned in case of certain sectors, especially say automotive and industrial, I think they will go for higher level of digitization of the supply chain, which again is an opportunity for many of us. How the procure to pay processes can be digitized, how risk assessment can be brought through the AI/ML kind of algorithms, how we can predict the global economics, which can drive supply chain negotiations. So all these leverage of how we can real-time monitor inventory, which will become a little bit of a challenge because of the restrictions, I would say the cross-border restrictions that are likely to come because of this COVID situation. So the need of monitoring the inventory real-time will be exponentially increasing, and hence the higher leverage of IoT, AI/ML will probably drive the digitization of the supply chain. And in all these situations, while the supply chain will need to be redesigned to a large extent, the trust factor will require a great attention. So today, because of the maybe OEM having a close connect with the supplier, so trust is there. But with the newer and newer suppliers coming in, the factor of the trust would have to be built in, and hence we foresee, and we are talking to many, I would say, customers on adopting blockchain-based, I would say, blockchain-based supply chains. So all the transactions being very closely monitoring the supply chain will happen. And finally, I think the 3D printing, because many of the OEMs want to start the production on an immediate basis. So companies are looking at having 3D printing as a solution for mass production. So these are some of my thoughts around how I think the digitization of manufacturing amongst these some of the key sectors will happen. Sanjay, can I request you to go to the next slide, please? Yeah, but I think the essential challenge which we see is, and I think Dr. Tilak also covered this point, that the ROI has to be established upfront, especially in the time of this crisis that I was mentioning. People would like to save the cash that they have invest as against investing. So that's a choice which the CTOs and the CEOs of the company will have to make, and the CFOs will have to make, that should they conserve the cash or should they invest at least a part of it in some of these themes that I talked about, so that they can not only remain relevant today, but also they are ready for mid to long term time frame. And of course, identifying the right technology partner will be very, very essential, because suddenly we have seen a boom of companies coming up with solutions which look good on the PowerPoint or on the videos. But when you go and deploy them, the story is significantly different. And we have burnt our fingers with some of the technology partners who came with a lot of good presentations, videos. But when the solutions were deployed on the shop floor, yeah, the returns were not as expected. So that I would leave that as a caution, that not only ROI but choosing the right technology partner is very, very important. And of course, in these COVID times, I think the suppliers and the machine manufacturers need to form a larger ecosystem. And as Datta was saying, probably COVID would push people to come together and suppliers to come together, which they have not probably done in last few years, to have common standards. And the challenge which we often face on the manufacturing, I would say, sides, the integration of multiple systems, whether they are IoT or enterprise systems, I think we will see whether these are the challenges, but we will see their suppliers and technology providers, partners coming together to find a common solution to the challenge which this pandemic COVID has put in front of us. I will leave that. I will just leave all of you with these thoughts, and I think the time is also up. So thank you once again, and over to you, Dr. Tilak.
Yeah. So thanks, Manish. Thanks, Datta. Thanks, Somnan, for those interesting thoughts and 4 different perspectives on the post-COVID era, the new normal. We are seeing a lot of the changes happening, pace picking up, pace not picking up, where to invest, where not to invest. People would say this is the time to actually not hold back, go whole hog into that. I think Government of India is going to do that, go whole hog. Become the good destination for supplies into manufacturing. We already are a good supplier in some of the sectors like auto, and we have a chance to step up our game in this. Digital will help us enable this. With Manish, I know Manish and Capgemini has established a center of excellence to kind of let people do these experiments without risking. So a lot of companies and a lot of solution providers are also giving tools and possibilities where manufacturing companies can assist. I know we work closely with Cisco, so Cisco is also putting up such center of excellence and such efforts into this collaboration platform being integrated with a manufacturing platform, which was never heard before, is happening. So collaboration tool would be available to worker to talk to his supervisor, and it doesn't have to walk across. And not because of COVID, this will happen because it's efficient. Some of the things which COVID told us to do or taught us to do would be this thing. Sustainability is going to get a big boost. As you know, pollution levels in all cities are down to almost 50% of what it was. So there are silver linings to the bad picture that we see all around. So post-COVID era is going to be interesting, challenging, a lot of opportunities. Digital is going to be norm, and all of us should be excited about it, not scared. Yes, we should be careful, we should be safe, and everything that the government says is for good of us. So with that, we will kind of stop with the panel and now open up for the Q&A. So if Sanket, you have questions already directed to a speaker, please address to him, or
yes.
you can give it to me and then we can hear. So we have about 20 minutes for this Q&A, and I think all of you should take advantage of that.
Yes, yes. So,
Yeah,
so there has been tremendous response from the audience, and many of them have
Great, great.
appreciated the
Wonderful.
panelist talk. And also, we have a lot of questions, so we'll try to take a maximum of the questions they have
So
posted.
for everybody, any question that we are not able to address because of the constraint of time, we assure you we will come back to you with an email or a response. And please also suggest any follow-up topics you want to do, because for ISA, this is not going to be one of a kind. We are going to build further webinars on top of this. And also we want to come up with a certain set of recommendations which we want to submit to Government of India. We want to do our little bit for this so that government exactly know what industry wants, and they don't do, and then we don't complain. So we want to be upfront on this. We are also working with CIA on this. So feel free to say that also. Yeah, but not taking more time, over to Sanket. Yeah.
Yeah, so here is one first question is that do you see Indian manufacturing industries will now be ready to adopt blockchain technologies going forward in the long run?
Maybe, Manish, you want to take it because you're experimenting on. Yeah.
Yes, I can take. Yeah, so I think the answer is very much yes. And when I say manufacturing companies, I would assume that we are talking about the companies who are manufacturing products and not the core manufacturing companies which are into, say, manufacturing of parts or components, but the companies which are, I would say, into manufacturing of products will definitely take, especially in the function of supply chain, because they want the higher trust of the parts that are not only coming to their sites for assembling the products, but also in the after sales market. So the answer is yes.
So just to add to this, a lot of traceability issues will come about. And even before COVID, as you know, BS6 standards in India impose a lot of traceability requirements on the auto companies. And this flowed back to the tier 1, tier 2 suppliers. So all the manufacturing data, the parameters right down to a micro level will need to be pushed. A lot of legal liabilities will have to be addressed via this data. So all this has to be a validated, reliable data, and that's where blockchain can play a big role. And yeah, so yes. Yeah.
And also, Dr. Chirag, just to add to it, also on the product recall, which especially in countries like India, which is now gaining importance, the blockchain will play a very vital role in product recall also.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Okay.
What I have seen from the blockchain perspective of manufacturing companies is where there is authenticity required or traceability, like you mentioned, where there is authenticity of the part number or part count or certification or calibration. Correct. Those are the areas where blockchain might be considered. But although I know that adoption of blockchain hasn't yet been widespread in any industry, excepting finance, I think for industry to start adopting it on a mass scale might still be some time. In fact, already when people are talking of anti-blockchain now, actually, so I think the jury is still out whether blockchain is going to succeed or whether anti-blockchain will block it. So I think one has to just kind of make sure that there's value in the blockchain technology for adoption, because companies are already invested in the systems and they'll change it. Then what will be the benefit that they will get is what they'll look at.
Yeah, absolutely valid. So any new technology has these challenges like fire probably had, but all of us in the solution space will struggle to do that. Yeah. Okay, Sanket, next question.
So next question we have is what you see as an impact on MSMEs, or maybe there is another question that what are the suggestions for the MSMEs in the automation area?
Somnath, would you like to take this? Somnath? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear the first part of the question. What is the impact on?
Impact on the MSMEs. Maybe the impact of the COVID-19 on the MSMEs, and one more question asking for suggestion for the MSMEs in the automation area.
Yeah, so that's that. Okay, now I understand the question. Thank you. I think the problems are going to be more or less same, right? In MSMEs, I feel the problem will be even little more. That's because the kind of infrastructure or the kind of technologies that is actually required to enable all the remote that we talked about, right, is going to be a little more difficult, because I think the MSMEs are also a little behind, except for some of the exceptions that we see in the industry, because the evolution is going on for the last 15 years, as I talked about, right? But the opportunities will be amazing. And as I said, the approach will be land and expand. So start small. Okay, I was hearing some background noise. Start small, and look at the value and see what kind of value that the technology brings in. So choice of technology is also going to be very, very crucial. And that's why, a technology company like Siemens also provides lots of different options, lots of different, variations, right? Like, say, for example, I'm getting very deep, right? Say, if you want to use something like an HBase as a database on the cloud, when you're adopting a cloud solution, maybe you may find that HBase is comparatively expensive. Rather, I might use a Cassandra. That should be good enough for me, right? So this kind of decisions will have to be taken when the deployments are happening. Look at the value and expand and get to the next level. I think this is a great opportunity in some of the things where things have not progressed the way it should have been. But I think there will be a push and people will have to adopt. But the future is still bright as far as I'm concerned, because the technologies are available, solutions are available. It's a question of how quickly we can adopt them.
So in fact, MSMEs, we are in discussion a lot of MSMEs, and I see actually two benefits that MSMEs enjoy compared to bigger companies. One is the decision-making process is very fast, and the risk appetite in a MSME is actually much better, because for them the benefits are obvious immediately, and then the decision maker or the owner is in full control of what's happening. So MSMEs are actually better situated to take advantage of this compared to the larger companies, which would be taking a little more time to make the changes in all kinds of models. So MSMEs actually will have to step up, change their game, and take benefit of this, because digital is going to be kind of a one way to flatten this out. And as you know, if you are digital on an e-marketplace, it doesn't matter. You can take on a big manufacturer very easily, because you have the same access to the market as a large company. And so MSMEs actually would enjoy the benefit. On the cost side, they are demanding, will have pressures on this, but actually I think MSMEs are better located, better situated to take advantage of the digital. Okay, Sanket, next.
Yeah. So the next question is, what are the top 3 areas of investment from IT budget perspective?
So Datta,
Okay.
you handle both, so probably you're the best person.
I think from the point of view of our own experience, I would say that, areas that, one thing that I mentioned also earlier was that, all companies would actually go to areas where there's value. Yeah. So in these times, I think generating value and maximizing value is going to be the key requirement. So I think 2 areas that come to my mind that will really see investments being prioritized from IT perspective is, one is the supply chain, making sure that your inventory is managed well and you don't stock up on any wasted material that you stock up in your given the uncertain demand. Like I think Manish mentioned about JIC, but JIC and JIT both kind of have an edge. So I think, in my opinion, we will try to invest more money in our supply chain strengthening, and also digitizing those parts of the supply chain. And second is also looking at our entire sales digitization, which means looking at how we can digitize and create service models which can give customers value. So I think all activities and investment will be focused on creating value in the short run. Yes, I think all our investment will go in those 2 areas.
Datta, thanks. Manish, Dr. Tilak, I would just add 2 more points. I think from an IT point of view, cyber security would be also one of the key things, because as people start to work more from home, remote monitoring of plants will start to happen. I think the cyber security and the cloud infrastructure probably will also be the focus of CIOs.
So one of the things we are hearing on cybersecurity is that they are expecting solution providers to actually make sure that the solutions offered are secured. So VAPT tests are done and strengthening is done and everything around that. The IT infrastructure, which is pretty resilient at this point, is going to be supporting that. So IT security is a challenge, but also people are saying that solution providers need to shape up and need to make sure that not every manufacturing company would have to actually the ability to assess this. So the responsibility of the solution provider and a consulting company is going to be much bigger on cybersecurity than to provide values, because value is something that a company will look at. But the security or the productivity is something that the solution providers will do.
So if I may add, I may add one more point, just one more point. So when we talk about remote monitoring and pretty much, trying to do everything from a remote location and enabling the business from that perspective, I think usage of cloud is inevitable, like what Manish said. Yeah. But I would also see that there will be a lot of hybrid solutions that will actually get implemented, and they already exist. The implementation model might be hybrid, where edge will take care of some of the IP specific topics, right, where the data needs to be behind the firewall, vis-a-vis higher compute might actually go on the cloud. So that might be an evolution that we will see in the next few days.
Yes, and actually related area to this would be self-sufficiency. And like again, Prime Minister Modi talked about it, that not that only we become an export hub, we should become self-sufficient. And the electronic industry is facing a lot of heat because of the supply chain disruption from China. So security and the localization of data where servers are going to be hosted are all going to be discussions. But we are going to be having another webinar lined up for this topic. So I'll kind of stop that discussion now, and we request all of you to attend that. Okay, Sanket, over to you. Next question.
Next question is pointed to Mr. Manish Pant. It will be really interesting to know more about integration of multiple systems. So, Manish.
Yeah, no, what is the question? Sorry, I was not able to hear the exact.
Yeah, it is more on the integration of the multiple system.
Right.
I hope this is more like, let's say, integration of multiple enterprise systems.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I understand. Yeah, so that's a big topic, means I don't think so we have time, but I can give some examples on how different systems will integrate it, and that may help to answer. For example, PLM and integration of PLM with, say, a system that is maintaining an enterprise system, which is maintaining a after sales, process. So now we have so many failures which are captured in the after sales in terms of warranty. Today, not much of that information actually flows back to, say, a designer through the PLM system, so that he can use that data for improving the product or maybe in the new product designs. So those type of integrations will start to happen. Second is, suppose there is a defect in manufacturing, which is in, say, captured in an MES system. That information again is not going back to either the supplier, that the part that you supplied was misfitting, or it does not flow back to the designer through the PLM environment, that yes, this was the problem that was faced in manufacturing. So such means I have numerous other examples, but these are some of the examples that inventory, for example, is a lowering down of inventory. Does automatic triggers go to the supplier that yes, he needs to maybe expedite the supply of parts, or if there is more inventory, then he needs to slow down. So such integrations, which are today, I would say, more manual in nature, will start to get more integrated. I can talk a lot about it, but these are some of the examples that I hope help the participants in understanding the context behind.
Yeah. So this gives us a thought for another topic on the webinar also, where the IT/OT systems meet. What would be the other areas that we can look at, from delivering, maximizing value from the OT system to IT and back from IT to OT?
Yeah, thanks.
So if I may add just one statement, sure, based on what Manish said, and those systems are solutions are actually available today. as we speak, because the video that I was actually showing, that's about an integration of the digital twin all across with the Teamcenter as the digital backbone, the PLM backbone. So it starts with design, it goes all the way up to planning, to manufacturing simulations, to the real product through MindSphere. So these systems actually exist. There will be a lot more implementation of these systems to get this end-to-end view in a seamless manner.
Yes. Next questions on this, Sanket?
Yes. So this is mainly on the contract workers. Many of the MSMEs employ contract workers. So how would the panelists suggest to bring the MSMEs into the digitalization fold?
So I'll just take that question. So yes, contract workers is a reality, not just in MSMEs, but also in large companies. Talent management is going to be a problem. Traceability of these workers and what happens is going to be a problem. But the fact that we should not be treating contract workers differently is something that is going to be possible when you enable them digitally. So once they are on the shop floor, when they are doing the work, they are your own people. So the differentiation today between the workers or our own people and contract people would kind of start becoming thin. There are other non-automation related topics why this contract labors happen, but we don't want to comment on that. These will remain a reality, but I think the accountability that is associated with this will go up because the traceability is going to be very important. So we see that contract laborers would be better utilized or could be better utilized because you will have digital. Enabling them with your own process is going to be very fast paced compared to the older times. So yes, I think digital would help in contract labor management.
Yes.
Sanket, we have time for one last question. I think,
Yes,
or we will hand over to Vikas after that for the wrap up.
Yeah, maybe we can just
So-
take last question. Any experience of the panelists of implementing IoT solutions in the power industry? Maybe.
I think that's going to be a lot bigger question. So I think let's push it, if you don't mind, who is asked the question to the next
Lot of
topic.
questions, but
Yeah.
we can just stop at this point of time
Yes,
and maybe
yes,
just
yes.
hand it over to Vikas. Yeah. So I'd
So
like to
good that we have all these questions. And personally, I would like to thank all the panelists and the ISA for giving this opportunity, panelists for their thoughts, a lot of insights that come from not just academic discussion, but that's something that you handle on day-to-day basis. We hope we have the possibility of coming back to you with more requests. My personal thanks to each one of the attendees, a very large number. And we look forward to keeping in touch with you both over the webinars and over emails. So thank you, ISA. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, attendees. Over to Vikas for the wrap up.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tirak. Certainly, I believe that the COVID situation has compelled us to think differently, to keep pace with all that we were doing throughout our lives. So I think we are definitely in a different world today, and it's amazing that how fast we've adopted these changes in the methods how we work. And this was only because that we all went digital. So I really liked Mr. Datta's catchline that never waste a crisis, and also Mr. Somnath's catchline that necessity is the mother of invention. So having said that, all the topics that we discussed today have certainly given us a new perspective towards looking at digitalization. So I take this opportunity to thank all our panelists for contributing their thoughts on this topic, and it was a really great session, really a thought-provoking session. Thanks for honoring our request to be the panelist on behalf of ISA Pune section. I also thank all the participants for joining this webinar. Your questions were very valuable, and do keep on pouring in your questions, if any, post this webinar as well. We would be happy to revert back to you in consultation with the panelists. My special thanks to Dr. Arvind Tirak for putting these things together He's the alternate delegate in Pune section, and it is this webinar is his brainchild, and definitely, as Dr. Triak mentioned, that we look forward to come back to you with more and more relevant topics in this domain. I also would thank the IISc Pune section program team, Mr. Anand Dikshit and Sridhar Kulkarni, who have taken a lot of efforts to publicize this event, to organize the things and get it moving. Not to, of course, our media partners, IPR, Industrial Product Review, has helped us to promote this webinar event. And I thank them as well on behalf of IISc Pune section. And a special thanks to Ascent Intellimation and Mr. Sanket Pathak for organizing this webinar platform support to IISc Pune section, without whose support this event would not have been possible. So thanks again, thanks all of you, and look forward to connect with you again on this platform with a new topic, with a more relevant topic for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and stay safe and have a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.